incentives, subsidies in all around the country, not just New York. We're here today, we're here to say, if you're too big, you're going to fail in New York City. That is the leapfrog strategy we're going to take to protect our local economies, our small businesses, and send a strong message that you can't come in here, strong message to Amazon that you can't just come in here and expect to take the taxpayers' money, $3 billion worth, when there are 3 million people living with extreme debt and student debt in the state of New York. First package, the New York Tax Justice will charge an extraction and automation fee for replacing workers with automated machines and artificial intelligence. This is a problem they were going to be dealing with all sorts of big tech sectors, and they're getting away with that because the way it's written now, the tax system, they're actually incentivized to replace people with automation. They actually get a tax break and tax write-off as a capital write-off for replacing human labor with machines. We're going to reverse that. If you replace humans with machines, you're going to get charged. And secondly, if you're a mega corporation and you're extracting money out of New York, if your profits are leaving New York, we're going to charge you a fee. So the objective is to make it unprofitable for the big mega corporations to take a strong stand to protect the local economies. Secondly, the New Yorkers' financial freedom. Right now, as I mentioned, there are 3 million New Yorkers who are living with student debt. We have 1.6, close to now $2 trillion at the end of the year of student debt in the entire country. These are multiple generations of people that are stuck in a lifetime of debt, and this was all done through design. About 40 years ago, we started to underinvest consciously on higher education. Before that, the responsibility of higher education was with the government. We funded higher education. We made sure that every person had access from K to 16, but we started privatizing that practice. Instead, we took away that burden from the government and placed that on the individual, and then we started giving out interest-bearing loans about 20 years ago. We justified this practice by saying that, oh, we need to catch up with the rest of the world. There's a skills gap, and we need to catch up with the rest of the world to give out billions and trillions of dollars of interest-bearing loans that put so many lives, so many people, young professionals in our generation, in a lifetime of debt. You liberate this class from the low income to middle class, upper middle class. The return on that investment is tremendously greater than giving away $3 billion to Jeff Bezos. Every study has shown, these are the facts. I know the governor is talking about, well, we're going to stick to the facts. The facts are the return on the investment of liberating this class is so much greater for the immediate and long-term returns. Amazon, mark my words, may not be around in 15 years. The lifespan of these mega corporations are pretty short. But you invest back into the people, the return will be sustainable. So this is a very simple argument. Do you want to invest in corporations or do you want to invest in people? And lastly, this is the budget policy that we'll be introducing as part of the people over corporations agenda, is the anti-monetization clause. Right now, when big mega corporations and super monopolies and companies and businesses, when they get an incentive package, they can monetize that incentive and sell it to a third party. Meaning, if Bezos gets $3 billion in incentives, he can sell $1 billion of that and pocket that today from a hedge fund that's willing to give him $1 billion because he'll collect the $3 billion 10 years from today, making $2 billion. This is how these things work. So we want to make sure that we can institute an anti-monetization clause to any agreement involving Amazon or any other big corporations for the last couple of years. Those are the three elements. This is what we call leapfrog strategy. The governor and the mayor expects us to sue here and sue there and focus on the little stuff, but we want to have a leapfrog strategy to make it very uncomfortable for Amazon to come back. If you want to come here, come back redo the terms and work with us directly in negotiating the terms. With that, I'd like to hand it over to our newly elected state senator from Jackson Heights, the great Jessica Ramos. All right.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. I'd start by saying that there is no mistake that we are living in a second Gilded Age in this country, and that we have too many corporations that are monopolizing, taking over too much of the market. And that is exactly what Amazon has set up to do, is to replace the open market and ensure that only Amazon is who gives us access to the products that we're looking for. That's a big problem when it comes to mom and pop shops. And if there's anything that is quintessentially Queens, it's making sure that our immigrants are able to stay entrepreneurs, and that the government's role is really to help them facilitate that entrepreneurship. I'm here not only because I'm the daughter of immigrants and because I'm going to be a new state senator here in Queens, but I'm also one of those students with, former students with student debt. And this is a bill that would really help our entire generation make sure that we have more purchasing power. We know that home ownership is actually declining, and which has helped developers tremendously. This is something, and I want to applaud Assemblymember Ron Kim for his leadership on this issue, because we can only do better for New Yorkers if we're putting working people first, not big corporations. Statistically, we know that for every job created by Amazon, we actually lose on average 5 jobs. We've seen how this plays out in Seattle and other parts of the country. What we want to do is make sure that Amazon and other big corporations like it come to New York, but promise to be good neighbors and good actors. And that means that you're going to pay taxes just like everyone else, and you're going to invest in our communities, and you're going to invest in the residents of Queens just like everyone else. So I'm looking forward to making sure that we're holding these corporations accountable, and that we're doing everything we can to make sure that this Amazon deal as it stands does not go through. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to bring up Mr. Wayne Ho, President of the Chinese American Planning Council.
Thank you, Assembly Member. I want to thank the Assembly Member for his leadership today. I want to thank Senator-elect Ramos for her leadership. I think it's very important for us to keep in mind that any time the state government supports corporations that come in, they are not supporting the institutions that are on the ground that oftentimes immigrant communities depend upon. For me, that means it's not just the small businesses in Asian American communities, it's also the nonprofit organizations that work day in and day out to support Asian American communities. Asian Americans are the fastest growing population in New York. We make up currently 10% of the state, 15% of the city. And despite the model minority stereotype, not all Asian Americans go to the specialized high schools, not all Asian Americans go to Ivy Leagues and get great high-paying jobs. In fact, based on the mayor's own Center for Economic Opportunity research, Asian Americans actually have the highest rate of poverty in all of New York City. So that's where it becomes very important for us to invest in the institutions like nonprofit organizations and small businesses to make sure that everyone has an equal opportunity to thrive. So that's why it was very surprising for me to hear, and honestly it's very hard for me to hear, that New York State is going to be investing billions of dollars into a new company to come in that we know will change the fabric of not just Long Island City and Queens, but all of New York City. Too often times we go to Albany and we say that we have social services contracted employees who earn minimum wage, and we need state funding to support the minimum wage increase. And we hear that there is no money. Too often times we go to the second floor in Albany and say we have home healthcare workers who are working more hours than they're getting compensated for. And we ask for that money to compensate those extra hours so they can support homebound seniors as well as people living with disabilities. And too often times the state tells us there is no more money. Too often times my employees are running programs in NYCHA facilities, or we're serving individuals who live in NYCHA, and we say that we need these capital improvements not just for the residents but also for our social services sectors or centers. And too often times Albany says we have no money. Too often times we show up and say, we are nonprofit organizations. You do not allow us to take the proper administrative expenses so we can fulfill all the requirements you're forcing us to do. That means all the audits that we do, that means all the endless IT requirements, that means all the other things that we're required to do as contracted nonprofits. And too many times the state tells us there is no more money. So it's very challenging for me to hear there's $3 billion going into the richest corporation in the world, but there's zero additional dollars that are coming to the social services sector that serves the most marginalized of our New Yorkers. So I want to thank once again the Assembly member and the Senator for leading the charge and having an agenda that will put people over corporations. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Wayne. I think my baby's crying, so we're gonna wrap this up in a few minutes. But I know the governor earlier today was on air live, saying, "Well, this is America." I think this is his word. This is America. This is what we do. You got to compete. This is what I have to do to make New York better. That was his rationale. I'm looking for a leader in the state of New York that can say, you know what? I'm not going to compete. I'm going to cooperate. I'm going to cooperate with New Jersey, with California, with all the states, and to hold Amazon accountable. I'm going to cooperate with every single city. I'm going to lead the way to bust up the super monopolies, because as Senator Ramos has said, they're not good for democracy. You can't control, not just control, you can't just be the market and expect for democracy to thrive, from the supply chain to the retailers to the market share. 40% of online research right now for products and services is done on Amazon. If you don't call that a super monopoly, I don't know what is. That is not healthy for democracy. 30, 40 years ago, the federal government would have stepped in and said, that's not right, we're gonna bust you up, pick one sector and you can compete. But that's not what's happening now. Our local merchants, as the senator said, I know horrible stories. They try to compete. All right, you know what? I'm gonna believe you, Amazon. I'm gonna try to sell my goods on your website. You know what they do? They steal all your data. They don't even share your customers' data to you. And the moment your product starts trending and selling, they'll sabotage, arbitrage your product, and they'll kill competition that way. That is such a violation of antitrust laws. And the EU already has an open investigation against Amazon. I don't know why we aren't following suit. It takes a lot of guts, I think, political guts, to stand up to the most powerful, the richest man in the world. And I'm looking for a governor who can. With that, we'll take some questions.
So, I guess what can we do? What can the people of New York do to, I guess, join this movement?
Good question. So I have a petition. I'm trying to get everyone, as many people to sign, that I'm trying to personally deliver along with my colleagues to the governor, to the Senate Majority Leader, to the Speaker, to all the leaders. You could check the link to the agenda and the petition is at a website called gutcheck.us. GUTCHECK.us. This is a gut-checking moment for democracy. That is where the name comes from. So gutcheck.us. You will find the link to the petition. Please sign on, and I will personally deliver it to the governor himself.
Do you feel like a lot of the assembly and maybe on the Senate side that you have a lot of support for this particular?
We're going to go into the next couple of weeks. I mean, I'm simplifying. Before, I think we had legislation put in place. We kind of fell into the trap. Well, you know, Amazon, big tech, they must be the smartest people in the world. We'll take their word for it. But now it's very clear. We put in the mechanism. We have the legal right to invest directly into people. All the billions and trillions of dollars can go directly to relieve debt, which would liberate and free the people. One of the highest red signals and signs that we're walking into another financial crisis is high level of public indebtedness. We had it 10 years ago with the subprime mortgage crisis. Now it's actually 3 times worse. In 10 years, the public indebtedness tripled in the world. So we are right now walking into a crisis that we may never return from. But instead of fixing that problem, we are again extracting billions and billions of dollars and giving it to the richest man in the world. How is that gonna relieve, how is it gonna fix our problem? So I think when we see that, people versus corporations, I think plenty of our Democratic colleagues would see the light and join us and hold this governor and the mayor accountable.
Yeah, if I may, we were elected by the public to protect the public and to protect the public trust. So for us, it is really important for everyone to understand that we are completely displeased with the way this deal was conducted, the lack of public review process, but above all, that we are elected officials who will be bold and courageous and make sure that, you know, we are taking our time to find solutions to this, that we're not gonna go down quietly, and what's more, we won't go down at all. We're going to fight this as hard as we can, and we'll do everything we can to make sure that it never happens again.
Could you explain more about leapfrog strategy?
Right, so oftentimes when we try to respond to a conflict or a situation, we take a conventional response, you know, oh, we're gonna sue, we're gonna, you know, ask the FOIL request, do all these stuff that they already expect us to do because they already have planned this out for many years. I promise you, the moment that, you know, elected officials signed that letter of last year inviting Amazon, they already made their decision to come here. They already planned out, you know, okay, what's the best strategy to make this happen? Because this didn't happen overnight, you know, like they wanted to come to New York and they spent years trying to figure out how to maximize the most out of the governor and the mayor's office. So the leapfrog strategy is, okay, let's take 2-3 steps ahead. Let's not just look at one step and go back and forth, but they're gonna expect that. So let's take 2-3 steps ahead and make it unprofitable for the super monopolies, mega corporations like Amazon to come to New York, sending a strong message. It's not just you, Amazon. Anyone else who's gonna behave like you, we're gonna make it as unprofitable for you as possible. Because if you think about it, why is it that for almost 40 years, the smaller you are, the more taxes you have to pay, the more regulations you have, the more insurance, the independently owned small businesses should be the one getting all the damn tax breaks, not the mega corporations. We have it reversed. Some states got it right. North Dakota is one. They banned chain pharmacy stores. And people said, oh, your price is gonna go up, you're gonna go bankrupt. Prices are lower than drugs in North Dakota than other states, because they kept independent pharmacies got together and they became competitive against the mainstream suppliers. So it's possible to support independent mom and pop small businesses and have a better economy than supporting the big corporations. That's what this fight is about. You know, how do we repurpose taxes to help local economies, and how do we give the money that you want to give to Jeff Bezos directly to the pockets of people that need it the most? Good? Good. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.